The Square Ball Podcast.
And we are off with another West Stand. Welcome to the show. This one is out normally on a Monday and Friday to bookend the week, but because we played on Monday night, we are doing just the one West Stand this week. Bit of a mess up, innit? Bit of an annoyance.
Bloody fixtures.
I know. You can find it on YouTube anyway, this one, and it's in your podcast app. Guests from across the world of Leeds United. My name's Dan Moylan. Hello to you. And with me is Michael Normanton.
Hello.
Are you looking forward to being able to use 10 devices on your VPN, Michael, this evening?
All at once.
I'll
get them all lined up in a crescent. Connect them all one at a time.
Yep.
And then
search for flights.
Could do, yeah.
You could subscribe to a streaming service in South America.
I suppose I could, yeah. Probably wouldn't be in English.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if I could speak Spanish stroke Portuguese,
yeah,
fine.
Excellent. So where would you find that then? Is it NordVPN?
NordVPN. We did have some VPN praise, you know, in the TSB Plus feedback. Someone said it was a like. Someone said whoever invented them should get a Nobel Peace Prize for giving the option to listen to Bryn Law instead of Don Goodman.
Yeah, which you can do.
So that's an option.
So if you want to buy your club streaming service from a virtual location abroad, this is how you do it. Protect your identity on public networks as well. All the good stuff. So if you're in like a coffee shop or whatever, you don't want people seeing what dreadful stuff you're looking at on the internet. then you can use a VPN and use the fastest one in the world, which is NordVPN, and nordvpn.com/TSB. You can see the link is in the episode description as well. We welcome our guest now, then, Beren Cross, now from The Athletic. Welcome back, Beren. You all right?
Hello, guys. You all right?
Yeah, enjoying the professionalism on show?
Yeah, I do wonder what NordVPN must think of these readouts at times.
Yeah, they love it. Yeah, they're in for the locked
customers.
Seems to be working.
They're locked in until the end of the season, would you believe?
And they can't get out of it. Can't get away.
That contract is now signed.
So unlucky.
So we're fresh-ish off the back of Burnley on Monday. We're recording Wednesday morning as it stands. That wasn't great, was it?
No, it was awful, wasn't it? I mean, that is probably the dullest Leeds game I can remember in quite a long time. I mean, there are some, at least Leeds win some of the boring games this year, but for it to be a 0-0 in that weather Monday night when it promised so much, didn't it, after the weekend with Sheffield United and Sunderland dropping points, you really went there with a sense of optimism. Leeds have been good in the big games under Farke since the start of last season, and it just didn't deliver. I suppose the neutrals would have said you're looking at the two best defences in the league, and given how strong Burnley have been at the back, it was always likely to end something like that.
Do you think the Sheffield United and Sunderland results pushed this more towards a draw because it meant everyone could finish the weekend sort of happy?
Quite possibly. Not that they would admit that. I think definitely for Burnley, in their case, I think they probably would have felt that suited them, given how strong we all know Leeds are. And I think because we are sort of with a Leeds bias, we always pick holes in Leeds' strengths. But I think for everybody else, they do see Leeds as a massive, massive threat. And I think a draw for them is a good result, even at home. I think Leeds would have wanted the win, but I mean, you guys were saying it off mic just before that as the longer it went on, the more it felt like they were maybe playing for a draw and kind of just sort of playing it out, if you like.
Yeah, because you don't want to lose that one, do you? Because the option of having Burnley on the same points of you feels infinitely worse than keeping them 2 points away and just maintaining the status quo.
It's weird, isn't it? Across the weekend, I feel like all teams at the top can kind of make an argument that it's been all right, because Sheffield United can say, well, obviously it's a terrible result for us, but we've not really lost much ground on anyone. Sunderland, all right, we threw it away, but Sheffield United lost. We've actually gained a point on them.
Yeah.
It's kind of everyone's feels more or less okay with it, which is weird because actually no one's won.
Yeah, I completely agree. If anybody, I'd say that Leeds are probably the most aggrieved and that they had basically an opportunity to take complete control of this and go 6 points clear and, kind of spurn that chance. But yeah, I mean, Sheffield United and Sunderland would have been buzzing on Monday night to have dropped points and not been punished really at all.
Yeah, but you can see the other side of it, can't you? You can see the other side of it, where it's going to be judged at the end of the season, rather, is this one, whether it was the right decision or not. And with the best will in the world, I know we want to win every game. You can't win every game. So if you had to take a draw, you'd take a draw out of that one. You can make an argument for it either way, can't you? And I suppose I'm just trying to justify it in my own mind to keep my own terror and dread at bay.
No, completely, yeah. I think if you were going to go into it and look at any away games this year where you take a draw, going away to Burnley and getting a draw is not a bad result. I just think maybe it's me being greedy, looking at it and thinking that it was there to be won again. I thought the Leeds did create at least a few chances, but just didn't finish them off. And yeah, I think you're right, Dan. I think it is one of those that whilst in these days afterwards, it's a bit sort of hard to swallow. Maybe in weeks or months to come, it will prove to be a good result, and Leeds will eventually get that gap that we're just craving the gap, aren't we? That's what I'm trying to say as well. It was a chance to get that clear air that we all want.
We've had a number of chances. I think that's the other thing. And it starts to compound just a little bit. I think the anxiety, but I came out of it feeling fine. Like, it's funny you were saying about being there on Monday night. It's very few occasions where I've ever thought I'd rather be doing something else. I wonder, did you have that moment of awareness when you were sat there thinking, I'm sat in the cold and rain at Burnley watching a game that's absolutely terrible. It's great having the job, doing this for a job is absolutely wonderful. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, I'm not being ungrateful for that, but there must have been times where you sat there thinking, I could be home now with a cup of cocoa and watching Moana or something like that with the kids.
Pre-match, I did actually look at the away end and think, no, that this is the kind of away end you want to be in pre-match, because you're all together. And we've talked about this. There's such a lack of jeopardy this year, in that we were finally in a game where it really felt like it meant something. It was an opponent that we felt could match Leeds, and there was something riding on it. And Monday night, like I say, the other teams have dropped points. Felt like a big opportunity. But yeah, I think after half an hour, the cold started to set in, gets into your bones, and very, very few chances to speak about. And yeah, I think, massive privilege to be there, of course, and I would never whinge about that. But yeah, you were thinking, this is pretty bleak.
You don't need to say it's a massive privilege to go to Burnley. It's fine. People will forgive you.
But some people did actually pay to be at Burnley, whereas Berwyn was getting paid to be there.
That is true.
So, the lucky sausage. Yeah. So off the back of that, press conference afterwards was possibly the most informative press conference that we've had in a while from Daniel Farke, in that he was just being a little bit mischievous about having not looked at his phone for 6 hours. And to me, that points in the direction that something is brewing.
This was a classic case of where I wish that Twitter could kind of get across intonation, because when you see his words written down, as we all reported, it does look, I get that completely. When you're coming at it cold from a distance and all you can see is the words, you think, that sounds like there's actually something to talk about at the next press conference. But when you were sat in there in the room, he said it almost with a wry smile, in that I've not checked my phone for 6 hours because I've been focused on the game. Perhaps being the key word, there might be something to talk about at the next press conference, i.e. we're staying awake. We're not going to fall asleep.
No.
If there's business to be done, there will be.
I think he's leading you down a path there.
Only to crush us.
Probably.
It'd be unlike him to do that, though.
What, to lead us down a path and then crush us?
Well, just to talk about transfers at all.
Well, I think there's...
Is he just bored?
Yeah, either that or...
I was just going to say something else.
Perhaps it is acknowledging that there are questions that exist out here, outside the Leeds United bubble, that people... I don't know, is it a recognition of the problems that we see as fans? And he's saying, yes, I see them. And I realise they bring pressure with them, and I want to acknowledge that exists. It's, that's kind of the subtext there. Do you understand what I mean? Like he's acknowledging that there are pressures being exerted by the fan base on the club, and it's, him as the public face of it is saying, look, there is stuff moving potentially in the background. Yeah,
I think it's important that he from what I'm told, he is aware of the public discourse. He reads a lot of the coverage that we write, and I'm not saying it's on social media, but I think he will be aware of the general sentiment. And maybe that is just his way of saying, look, I'm not an idiot. I'm not, being blinded by what's happening. I can hear you, and maybe something will happen. But it's worth noting that he has repeatedly said in previous windows that he does switch off from the window, sort of in the 12 to 18 hours before a game. He's very much in game mode, and people shouldn't read too much into the fact that he's mentioned that he hasn't looked at his phone for 6 hours. That's quite normal. What we're on now, is it 4 or 5 days to go to the window? We're talking Wednesday, so it's next Monday, isn't it? So we're sort of 5 days or so. I know people at the top of the club have said if you could offer them a player in the first 5 days of the window or the last 5 days of the window, they would always take the latter, because invariably it is going to be a better player. My examples, not their examples, would be Solomon, Tanaka maybe. None of us saw Solomon coming, and that is a player that's only available at the end of the window because the loan-in club isn't aware of their situation until the end of the window. So that is very much the way they feel at the top of the club. That doesn't mean something will happen, but they always expected it to be towards the end of the window. So we'll have to see how the pieces move. I know Buendia at the time of recording is virtually done to Leverkusen. So there's no other names that are popping out there at the moment that we can really speak about. But I wouldn't fall asleep. I think there is still a possibility.
The one name out there, the number 10 stroke striker we're all looking for, Matt Targett. Any truth in that?
Target man.
A target man, hey, very good.
There you go.
So yeah, our my colleagues at The Athletic, at the Newcastle end, they brought that to the table on Sunday or Monday, I think it was, and they've had a couple of sources up there that they were pretty confident with that said there was something in it. Nothing more than an inquiry. That's all they're saying is basically Leeds have picked up the phone and asked. People at Leeds have told me that there's nothing in that. So it's basically one side saying one thing, the other saying the other, so everybody can make their own minds up. I would say we can all agree on it feels odd. You know, I think at best I would feel if there was anything in it, it would be a case of Leeds are effectively just preparing as they should do as a conscientious football club, that if for whatever reason somebody came in from Spain maybe with several million for Firpo, who is out of contract in the summer, maybe they see it as a wise business decision to accept that, and they're just basically checking if we needed to move quickly, is Target available? That's the most I could probably yearn from that. But if Firpo sticks around, there's absolutely no reason to get a left back.
Yeah, but that said, you can't avoid the fact that he's probably gone in the summer, one way or another.
Firpo.
Yeah.
Well, we've got some mugs to shift before then, so if you do want one, get on the website.
They're on the website, are they?
Yeah, still got a few left.
That's good to know. How many?
Oh, not too many. We'll be all right. I'm confident we'll sell them.
So get in now and avoid the scramble.
Indeed. Can Target play centre back? Because the other person I was thinking who has never felt fully committed is Max Verber, and if he was to leave, I know he sort of covers centre back and left back, doesn't he, when he's not injured?
I think Target's one of those short fullbacks that probably couldn't do a job there. Whereas you could probably see Byram doing a job there. I don't think Target's
small.
Of that ilk. Yeah,
in my head he's quite big.
It's because you're thinking of Target Man. You are.
Is it because Baron's big?
Right.
Maybe he's tall to me.
Yeah, I bet everyone's tall to you, mate.
True enough. Manos Solomon, giant.
Excuse me. Yeah, the Target one, I think you can explain away as, it's surely just got to be.
People are on the phone, aren't they?
Yeah,
making calls.
Yeah, they're all asking about what's going on, whether it's this window or the next one in a few months' time, which would be a particularly active window, because there is a little bit of background noise bubbling away about potentially a number 9 maybe. So be interesting to see if they could do something on loan, because I don't know about you. Do you agree that it just feels like that? Just that little bit of finishing. If we just had that little extra bit of finishing, or is it? We've got the finishing in Pirro, I suppose. But just somebody who can do that more complete number 9 stuff that Farker, I think, probably craves in that side. Could it be the difference, even in just the odd game or two that gets you over the line?
The other night I was thinking as well, which maybe I already have solutions for this in someone like Nonto, but to give an option as well for someone who can run in behind defences as well, because Pirro is pretty slow, isn't it? I think he looked fast once against Norwich in the playoffs, and that's really it. I don't know who he was up against that day. It was someone old, I think, wasn't it? Was it Grant Hanley or someone? Gibson. It was Duffy, maybe, I think. Yeah, and we were all of a sudden you're like, oh, Pirro's quite quick. But the other night, it just felt like there was no alternative to just playing it into his feet, because he's not someone who particularly attacks the near post, which Joseph can do, and he's not fast enough to run in behind. So maybe just of someone to vary it a little bit, I think might be a nice option to have. Whether or not you can get that person who's willing to come and accept they might be on the bench is, I guess, difficult.
Yeah, he's not quick, is he? It was. I think I hadn't really thought about a 9 until you mentioned it, Dan, when we were on a few weeks ago, and you were kind of sort of posing that thought. And I'd always thought, if you're going to get anybody, it's going to be a 10. And then we did a squad depth piece last week, and we looked at it and thought, you know what? If Pirro does get injured, and to his credit, he has had a very, very good injury record since he's been here. He's barely missed any time out. And I thought, that is a lot on Joseph's shoulders. And we've still got a lot of games to go. Bamford, bless him, simply cannot rely on him unless he has a really good run, and by the run in, he might be sharp. So I am increasingly open to the idea of a 9, but as Michael's just said there, and we've reflected this on pieces, who is going to knowingly come here? And you're looking at the quality you need, you're looking at a Premier League, maybe a lower end Premier League 9. Who's going to come here and knowingly sit on the bench and basically wait for Pirro to get injured, who has proven he does not get injured very often? I just think that's a really hard sell to anybody. As much as we think it's a great gig to get, being a 9 at Leeds, I can't see how you sell that to somebody. Do you think maybe there's been a little bit of a shift in opinion potentially from Farker? And I don't know if this is something that maybe between you, the press gang, could maybe ask him about, because I think fans would like to know if he thinks Joseph is ready. Because I've over the course of the season come to the opinion that he looks like a really, really good prospect, but he's still that side of the line. He still remains a prospect rather than ready to fire us to promotion, because he's missed a number of key chances. Sometimes it's just not fallen for him. There was that one against Burnley earlier in the season when he had that first minute chance, and that's a vastly different game if that goes in. So has there maybe been a shift with Joseph?
And, I actually quite like Joel Pirro, and I wonder if and when we do get back to the Premier League, if he'll be an asset, maybe from the bench. We've seen him as an asset from the bench this year, just popping up in little pockets of space, but he doesn't do the work, does he? He can't necessarily make all those runs in behind. He's a finisher, he's a poacher. So maybe if they could find somebody who's a little bit more complete, somebody who they could put straight into the 11 now, and then challenge Joseph and Pirro to win their places back.
I think we can see the logic in that, but I think, again, it comes back to this dressing room harmony thing, and I just don't think it's Farke's style to bring somebody in to basically say they can come straight in now, and Joel, you've done your 10 goals, you can now sit on the bench whilst we watch this new guy who has known us all 5 minutes do the job better than you, and given you've been here 18 months learning the ropes. So I think Farke would say that publicly he has never said that Joseph is ready or has never been the solution. So I think if we asked him that question, he would say, well, I've given him more minutes because it's part of the process, but I've never said he is the finished article and we can rely on this guy to be our leading number 9. In the press back, we really like Joseph and have maybe been a little bit disappointed this season. I think we saw in the summer he was scoring all those goals in the friendlies, went out to Germany and he looked really good out there. And we know he constantly scores for Spain's under-21s, scored a lot of goals for Leeds' under-21s. And of course, at the back end of last season, the game at Chelsea was absolutely incredible. And he had that run where he couldn't get in the team, but every time he came on from the bench was really impressive. So I think he has maybe taken that step back. But Dean Ashton was talking to me on Monday night doing TalkSport, and he made the point that maybe this is the season where he kind of breaks through, and in a few years to come, we look back and say, didn't score many goals that year, but that was a crucial foundation for what maybe 3 or 4 very, very fruitful years as Leeds is number 1-9. So I think I really find it hard to think they'll get a 9 as much as I would probably welcome it.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because we had a conversation at the end of the match ball. We somehow managed to eke 30 minutes or thereabouts out of that Burnley game on Monday, and we actually do a little bit of extra time for our members and subscribers where we just sometimes go a little bit off piste or whatever. But we actually got talking about this.
The whole thing was quite off piste the other day, though, because nothing had happened.
No, but we actually circled back to talking about the idea of squad harmony being above all else, and it was Chris Mack who said in his Belfast brogue with regards to adding players to the squad, and actually I hadn't thought about it in such stark terms, but as he said, it's not the fucking Mighty Ducks. We're not here to be nice to everybody. We're here to get promoted. This is a football club. That is the goal. And whilst it tickled me at the time, I went away and thought about it. I thought he's right. Yeah. We're not here to just be nice to our centre forwards because everybody gets on really well. Yeah. We're here to get promoted, and there's too much at stake.
I completely agree with that. And our counter question to Farke when he mentioned that is, well, how weak are these people? How fragile are they? And that if they have a new face that's sitting next in the dressing room, it's going to make them feel upset and they're not going to play football anymore. So I think it's a fair point, but I don't know, maybe it's one of these things we have to trust Farke on, and that he knows how a dressing room works. None of us do. He's been in there. He's done this many times before, and he's looking at it and thinking that it's not just Pirro you might be upsetting. It's the rest of the team, or it's changing the system, or any harmony that does exist between Pirro and the rest of the team might be lost with a new player. But again, the counterpoint is if you get a good enough 9 in, they will they'll sort of bridge those gaps, if you like.
Yeah, and the players would welcome it, surely.
The chance to get promoted.
Yeah, because their livelihoods depend on it. In the same way that you saw, Joe Rodon screaming furiously at Ilan Meslier for chucking one in against Hull that's ultimately cost them.
Meslier is another one that feels like we're not allowed to replace him because it'll make him sad. Yeah, it feels like it's been part of the argument, which I'm not necessarily on board with. But everyone's completely abandoned the idea of getting a goalkeeper now, haven't they?
Yeah, completely.
I will say Farke has probably done. If he never intended to, he did a good job of just removing all doubt of that pretty early on.
Yeah. To be fair, he killed that one, didn't he?
Because I think at the point at which the window was opening, the Meslier stuff had happened, and everyone was kind of going, right, well, just buy someone else now.
Yeah, well, it sounds
and
like
he just went, well. He dropped into the cup game, straight back in. He's kept a couple of... He's admittedly had nothing to do.
I can see the sense in it, can you?
I would rather we had a goalkeeper who could be better.
No, me too. Of course.
Because I still have zero trust in him.
Well, what I want is Nigel Martin in there forever.
Okay. Now, in his late 50s?
No, he's probably a bit too old now, Baron, to be honest, I think. But, Nigel Martin is in his pomp and his prime. I mean, then again, Nigel Martin, I'm sure he would admit by his own admission, couldn't do the footwork. But, that's the thing, is you always want the best possible. He's the best goalkeeper I've ever seen. So I'm always hankering after, I want the best player I've ever seen in every position, because that's what we do as football fans. But I'm saying I can see the logic of retaining Meslier in that system, because he knows the system, and he is a like it or lump it, he's a crucial cog in the machine.
Yeah, I think the other thing is we look at goalkeeper-wise, you look at Trafford and Cooper, who are both having really good seasons, but over at Sunderland, their goalkeeper, Patson, their keeper, he was getting quite a bit of criticism for the goals they conceded at the weekend. We saw Angus Gunn diving out the way of one early in the game the other night. And
looks dead hard, doesn't it? Really hard job.
So there aren't... not everyone is good in this league, it is worth saying. So I think sometimes you can focus a little bit too much on your own team's shortcomings, but, there are lots of medium level goalkeepers in the Championship.
True enough, but it sounds like the higher ups maybe had a conversation with Farke and he's backed his man.
Completely, yeah. That's what I've been told, is that they are aware of the Meslier issue, especially after the whole game. Conversations were had, and ultimately Farke, as he said publicly, is got his full backing. And I think ultimately the ownership have to trust Farke. They've hired him to be a trusted figure. He's done this before, and ultimately, if he says he wants to go with him, then the ownership are going to back him on that.
I wonder, is there maybe because we're probably shopping in a very limited sized pool right now of players.
Yeah, very
in this window, in that you don't want to get warm bodies, to use a Kinnearism.
Matt Targett would be a warm body, it feels like.
I disagree. I think that's a fringe Premier League player who is probably got what it takes for you to get a foothold in the Premier League, even when you get there. Because I think, despite what they would say, I know they're probably just planning for now for the short term, but there's also going to be an eye on the summer as well, where we still don't know if we go up or not. It looks likely that we will. Have you seen the odds, by the way? We're 80-1 on or greater now for.
That's just not true though. Is it?
For promotion.
That just shows what a con betting is.
It's just terrifying. But but maybe they have just got that one eye on the summer, and they don't want to do anything too long term now and commit too much money to something now in case we don't go up.
We are speaking 5 years on from John Kevin Augustin coming through the door.
Or there's a desire just to do stuff for the here and now that they can, and then they reassess in the summer. So it creates quite a difficult dynamic that they've got to operate in, I suppose. An already small pool of players that they want, that sort of bottom end Premier League, is then you're adding the coming in and fighting for your place angle to it, because you don't want to disrupt squad harmony. And is somebody prepared to just come in for 3-4 months, whatever it is, until the end of the season? So there's a number of factors, I suppose, that make it difficult. And I'm not trying to justify not doing anything, but I'm just wondering if that maybe the position that we're in is not, as we don't necessarily have the luxury of loads of choice. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, like you, I don't want to sit here and just sort of be an apologist for the ownership, and because I know that fans want action and they want to see people come through the door. I mean, people are asking for players like Louis Barry, but is Louis Barry really going to make an impact in this Leeds team? Is Ben Brereton Diaz going to make an impact? Is John Joe Shelby? I mean, it's just, I think a lot of the other clubs are signing warm bodies. People don't want to hear about
John Joe Shelby is cold-blooded though. That's worth remembering.
People don't want to hear about PSR and stuff because it's boring and it's quite opaque and quite hard to work out and things. But I think, basic maths would suggest that, yes, if you are spending 8 figures, if you're looking at that sort of quality, or signing an agreement that leads to 8 figures being spent in the summer, then that is 8 figures you can't then spend when you know you're a Premier League club, or that money can be restructured in some other way. So I'm sure they'll be conscious of that kind of thing. But I think, to your point, Dan, it is that the most important thing here is that restrictive pool of players that they're shopping in, because as we've heard ad nauseum, players just don't want to play in this league. As much as we think playing for Leeds is the best thing in the world, there are a lot of players that would rather, I think as we might have discussed last time, that would rather be in a relegation scrap in the Prem than dropping down and winning a trophy in the Championship. So, you've got to find players that are better than the Championship, but are also willing to drop into the Championship, even if it is for a few months, maybe with the promise of being here next season in the Prem.
We shall see. Some matters at hand then at the weekend, we have Cardiff City at home. Another one of those that you look at, given the stellar home record this year, where you think we should expect to win that. Whether we do or not, obviously, is down to the fates and the gods, and what we do on Saturday. But you look at it and you think, that's got to be another 3 points, given where we are.
Has to be. Yeah, it has to be 3 points. I mean, Cardiff, I was looking last night, they're actually in pretty good form. I think they're unbeaten in 6 under Omar Reza, who's now got the job full time there. But you look at their team, and again, it's another anonymous Championship team that could be any one of 12 other teams in this league. And Leeds have to, and I think should win, given the form they're in. I think hopefully we are now seeing this, like last season, where we are maybe seeing this sort of extended unbeaten run as we saw at the start of 2024 last season.
The benchmark for away teams this year I suppose you have to use it as the benchmark because the second is Sheffield United, and the fact that they came and they were so negative at Ellen Road caught me by surprise. And I know, different teams have tried to approach it in different ways, but there is an argument for us winning just about all of our home games this season, nearly every game.
Virtually no one has tried to play an attacking game against us. Middlesbrough had a bit of a go. Watford had a spell, so did Sheffield Wednesday. Yeah, but for the most part, you know exactly what you're getting. It's just pure defence and try and get a set piece. Try and hope something goes in from a mistake is basically what you're aiming for. Keep it tight yourself and wait for something bad to happen.
Yeah, the one home defeat we've had was Burnley, which we've seen how tight defensively they are, which was based on a slip by Solomon. Other than that, it's Portsmouth and Blackburn. It's been win-win-win. So I think it's fair to expect us to win every home game. Is that fine to expect?
Yeah, completely. I think that's a fine expectation. Who have they got left to play at home now? I think there was
Sunderland.
Sunderland's at home, yeah.
Sunderland at home, but then we got the big teams out of the way. All the big teams are actually out of the way. After we've played West Brom, which is the start of March.
Well, I've got the fixtures in front of me if you want me to tell you definitively.
Okay.
That would be easier than just guessing.
Yeah, at the start, we play, I think, from having looked at it, we play West Brom, and then after that, it looks like quite an easy run of games, truth be told, to end the season.
Yeah, so we've got Cardiff.
There's no big 6-pointers in there.
Cardiff, Sunderland, West Brom, and then after that, you've got Millwall, you've got Swansea, Preston, Stoke, and Bristol City to finish the season.
Yeah, win every home game, I think.
Yeah.
Be nice when it's just finish the season winning, like, as we did when we went up under Bielsa, just win like 7 in a row.
Yeah.
Just make it nice and easy for yourself.
Preferably, yeah.
Let everyone else scrap for second.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen though.
It'd be nice to experience a degree of comfort. That it'd be a very unleadsy thing to do.
If we can be top on the 1st of March, I think those odds of 1-80 or whatever you were saying are maybe approaching fair.
Yeah.
Equally, if you looked at the odds for us not to go up, they would not reflect that.
No,
because that's not how bookmakers operate.
Yeah. So fingers crossed. Just do it, Leeds, and I think that's why. Exactly what you said there, Michael. Why I was happy to accept a point, even though it was a bit of a crappy game on Monday. Just get out this little run of fixtures now, see where we are then. And as I touched on the other day, like it's the 10 games to go that Farker starts to really lock in, which is why I think he was probably happy to accept that point. But yeah, it's a different kind of pressure at the weekend, isn't it? With Cardiff, the expectation to win. But I feel like over the course of the season, we've probably adjusted to that pressure as a fan base as well. Like we've come to terms with that expectation that we'll win, and we actually probably go into these games expecting to do so, and we're quite comfortable with it.
Yeah, that may be recency bias though, because we have scored in the first minute of the last couple of home games, which it adds a degree of comfort, and also it completely ruins the game plan of the opposition, which is, as we've seen, it's typically been to take a minute on every goal kick, take 30 seconds on every throw in, just kill it as much as you possibly can. Try and reduce the ball in play time to about 30 seconds, ideally, and hope to get a set piece goal, which is really frustrating to watch, isn't it, at times? But yeah, the early goals just put an end to all that.
Well, an update on those odds. We are now, according to Betfair anyway, we're 100 to 1 on to get promoted.
Lies.
Via one means or another.
That's just not true.
Terrifying, isn't it?
It's just not true either.
It'll be reflecting the market, won't it? But that's what the expectation is. So they're saying there's a 1% chance of us not going up.
Still too tight for that, isn't it? There's still 4 teams that are in and around it.
Yeah. But it's obviously factoring in the playoffs, which we will obviously sail through if we end up in those, because we'd be delighted just to be there, wouldn't we? I don't know about you, but that feels to me like that'd be even worse, being consigned to that purgatory again.
It does feel like everybody would be waving the white flag if it was playoffs, rightly or wrongly. I'm sure the Fark and the players won't feel like that, but it does feel like let's just lose all hope at that point.
Having been top, and got a foothold
too
at
much
top,
to take.
Yeah, the drop off, because we saw it in the first Bielsa season, didn't we?
Yeah.
They didn't quite adjust to it, I don't think.
Although you're not telling me 44 minutes on the clock against Derby, you weren't thinking we're doing this. But
all it took was that one wobble, and then it just collapsed.
Oh, it was clear. It was clear from that point on. It was done.
Yeah, the arse fell out of it, didn't it? As soon as they get that goal past Cassidy.
Let's not do it. We don't need to.
We don't
haunt ourselves with possible future scenarios, do we? But yeah, I would probably think about tapping out and avoiding Wembley if that was to happen again.
Just going on with it.
Just say it like us against Blackburn at Wembley.
Oh my God,
getting Eustace. So there's an incentive.
Eustace at Wembley. God.
There's an incentive for you to win on Saturday, Leeds. That's the horrible alternative you've got to face.
Avoid John Eustace.
Yeah. Beren, thank you for coming in. We'll do it again soon. And yeah, as we close in on those 10 games to go, I think, do you feel like a sense of excitement just starting to bubble under now? It's starting to take shape.
Well, I wanted that on Monday. I went into it on Monday, which is probably why I was so deflated by a draw. But yeah, I think it will start to grow. And like I say, they are in a really good place. The results are coming, like I say, very, very winnable home games now. And I think the Sheffield United and the Sunderland games on the horizon, that really does whet the appetite. And if you get wins in those two, then game on.
Yeah, and another thought just about the transfer market. Imagine the lift it would give to everybody if you added, heaven forbid, like 2 players instead of just 1. That would be...
Yeah, the optimism would be off the scale. If they got in a player of Buendia's calibre, then I think everybody would be like, wow, this is happening now. I suppose that's a fair point. I mean, we've seen a lot of promotions over the years where somebody has gone out and strengthened from a position of strength and got even better, and it's just got them over the line and they just feel invincible.
Yeah, and that's what we'd like, Leeds United to be invincible. Maybe one day. Thanks. We'll do it again soon. See you soon.
Cheers.
The Square Ball Podcast.